Mark.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Jason Lore here with Jason Lore Photography and Films, and welcome back to another episode of the JL Photography and Films podcast series. So today we're going to be doing a little bit of double feature. So we're going to be doing a movie review on the movie Big Fish, and also we're going to be talking about storytelling. So whether you're writing a story or you're telling a story, how you can make it interesting. So let's go ahead and get started on the review first. So Big Fish is a film that that came out back in 2003. This movie starred Ewan McGregor as Ed Bloom, Albert Finney as older Ed Bloom, and Billy Crudup as Will Bloom, the son of Ed Bloom. So, um, this is absolutely a movie that I should have watched a long time ago. 2003, I was a junior back in high school. So I don't know how in the world I missed out on this movie, especially being a screenwriter or just a storyteller and a story writer, in general. It's like the movie The Last Action Hero, which I did a review on too a few episodes ago, where it's a movie that I should have seen a long time ago as far as like filmmaking goes. But for Big Fish, this is definitely revolving around like just my love for writing stories and telling stories. But anyways, so in this story, we follow Ed Bloom as he tells the story of his younger days, and we also have Will Bloom, his son, who's now an adult, who is trying to figure out if all those stories that his father has told him ever since he was a little boy of these crazy and epic adventures of his younger years were all true, especially since Ed is about to die because of old age. And so uh, throughout the movie, we get to see young Ed Bloom, played by Ewan McGregor, just living his life out through high school and being successful and just being this really super awesome and brave person who goes on all these crazy adventures. And, at first I was wondering, okay, is any of this stuff true? It just sounds like something so imaginative that, it can't be real. But at the same time, it was just so entertaining to watch at the same time. Just him going up against a giant and then befriending the giant and then hitting the road with his new companion and just discovering different things in the world that's just completely out of this world. And I just thought to myself, it's like, wow, this is actually pretty fun and entertaining. And so I just totally forgotten that, any of it is like real or if it's fake. But it was just such an entertaining and interesting story. And so, when we go back to like the present, when he's like older now and, his son is there, his son is still trying to, investigate and figure out if like all these people that he's met, or as I like to call characters that he's met, are even real. Because supposedly there's someone that's supposedly a witch who was able to foretell like one's death. And so, it's just one of those curiosities of like, okay, when is Ed Boon gonna die? Because supposedly Ed did see his future where he dies, and he's mentioned it so many times to the point where it's like, when is he going to die? And if that's even true at all. But again, it's just very entertaining. It makes you really, wanting to invest more into the story and just seeing if all this is true. But again, it's like when you jump back into the past, it's just now this, epic adventure and epic tale of one man going through life itself, going through all the obstacles, the trials, and then finding his true love in the most romantic way ever. And then all the friends that he meets along the way. It's just such a such an entertaining story within a story. So I just gotta say, it's like, man, it's it was really fun. And the sad part was like the ending, which is, spoiler alert if you guys haven't seen it, but is when, when Ed Bloom is finally, dying, and he's, begging his son, to tell him a story. And his son at that time was just wondering, okay, well, what do you want me to tell you? I mean, shoot, I don't know. And his dad was just telling him, just tell me a story. And so that's when Will, his son, just finally said, all right, I'll tell you a story. So all right, so we figure out that we need to get you to the water, to the lake. And his dad's like, okay, yes, keep going. So we sneak out of the hospital room, and then we break out of the hospital. We get into this, awesome like sports car, and then we drive through town, getting past like all the, people that are trying to stop us. And then, we get to this forest, going to the lake. And in this forest, we see all these other, or we see all the people that you've met, all the people that you met throughout your whole entire, adventure, something to that effect. But it was just so amazing though. It's like, everybody that he's met was in that forest, and right when he gets to the lake, he sees his wife, like the love of his life that he met along his journey, and all of them were there to see him off. And as soon as he drops him into the lake, he finally takes on his true form, which is, a big fish. And then he swims off into the waters and just disappears into legend. And then we go back into reality. He passes away, but he passes away peacefully, like hearing a great story that was told to him by his son. And I thought that was just, very, very sad, because it was just, not only did a really interesting man, just died right there, but it was just the fact that, all the characters that he's told in his story to his son, like, was, all there for him when he was at his last moment. And it was something that, I believe like he passed on to his son, like all those years when he was telling those stories to him when he was a little boy. Like, it was all for that moment. And his son remembered all those characters that he told him when he was a little boy. And, it's like I always tell a lot of people, it's like, my characters that I create, in a sense, they're like my children. They're like my legacy. So long as they live, so will I. It's kind of like Walt Disney, right? It's like Mickey Mouse. So long as Mickey Mouse lives, then so too will Walt Disney. Because not only will people, know that Mickey Mouse is Mickey Mouse, but also the creator of Mickey Mouse. So it's like, for him, he passed on his stories to his son, who will now pass it on to his own child. Which in the movie, like, him and his wife are actually, about to give birth to a child. So it was just such a perfect moment, and it was like, I don't know, it was just like a very, very touching moment. And I think like that makes for a really great story. And, in the end, you do start to see all these characters that his dad was talking about, like, just show up to his actual funeral. And you come to realize, like, wow, like, most of the stuff that he was telling was true. And it was just told in such a, interesting way that, it's so memorable. So I thought like that's such a great way of demonstrating like what storytelling is all about. It's, inspiring, and it's also, very educational. I mean, like, if anything, if I were to like explain it all, it's like inspirational, meaning like, he went off on all these adventures and got to see, you know, most of the world and all the people in the world, and met the love of his life. And also, educational, meaning like just living life to the fullest and having your own stories and your own adventures to tell to the world. And I think like that's something that he passed on to his son, you know, through like his stories. Like that's actually something that reminded me of my father as well, because my father, he would always tell me so many stories when I was a little kid growing up, about his life in Laos, right? Like, it was very tough, and they did everything that they had to do to survive, hunting, gardening, and farming. And, I got to learn all of that, growing up in America, born and raised, just working at the farm along with them, hearing his stories, and also, in a sense, like living it. Because a lot of my friends, they always wonder, like, dude, where are you every Saturday and Sunday? It's like, I'm, helping my mom and dad at the farm, and also doing the farmer's market, because that's exactly how my parents had to survive back in Laos, was just through hard work. And, along the way, it's like, with his stories that he's told me too, it's like, it's a life lesson. And I always held those stories with me closely, because, you know, that's my dad's story, and it's his adventure, his lessons that, he's been teaching me ever since I was a kid. And even to this day, he's still teaching me, with all his stories. And in fact, like, that's what I believe. That's why I believe that, storytelling is in my blood. It was something that my father passed on to me. And he even said to me himself, it's like, you know what? You have a very powerful gift, and that's storytelling. And that's something that you can use to, really change the world. And I'll always remember that from my dad, because, he's just like Ed Bloom. He had a very adventurous life, and he wanted to share that with, his children and with the world. And that's exactly what my dad wanted for me too. And I'll always remember that. But otherwise, that's pretty much it for the movie review. And as far as like, the, storytelling goes, if I were to be a professor and teaching script writing or storytelling, this is definitely one of the movies that I would show my class, and would even recommend, to my class or anybody who's looking to get into storytelling, is Big Fish. Because, like I said, like, he tells his stories to the most craziest way, but it's also the most entertaining and interestingest way to tell a story. And it's just gonna get to a point where when everybody's just so into the story, to the point where they forget whether it's real or not. They just want to know what happens next. And I think like a lot of people, in fact, like he even said, there was even a line in the film where Ed Bloom, old Ed Bloom, would say, any man can tell a story like in a real form. And it's not complicated, but it's also not interesting. And so that's where, you lose people. Yeah, it's the truth, it's realism, but then at the same time, it's like, it's not something that's going to grab anyone's attention. But you know what? You can for entertainment purpose and also even for inspirational purposes, you can like add a little, imagination to it, to where now people will be, invested in it, to where they want to learn more about it. Because like the whole point is getting your message across through that story that you're trying to tell. It's like you go watch a movie. It's like if you watch closely, there is, a moral to the story there. And that moral can be, discovered if you pay really close attention to it. Just like, again, like with Big Fish, it's like, his dad, or Ed Bloom, with all his stories, it's like just, you know, a bit of like his adventure, like going through life and just the trials and the challenges. It's crazy. But then it's like, you listen to anybody like who's gone through like life, it's like itself, it's like, dude, there's a lot of crazy stuff that they've gone through. And so in a sense, like it is real too. There's some truth to it. I mean, is that, there's crazy stuff that, we run into in life. It's just the question is like, how do we remember it, and how was it in our point of view at that time? So yeah, it's a really great example of storytelling, and it's one that I hold like dearest to my heart when it comes to storytelling. And again, this is a movie that was recommended by my very good friend Peter, who, knows me so well, to where, gosh, he just said, dude, you gotta watch this movie, man, because I just come across it again, and it just really made me thought about you. And so watched it, and man, he's absolutely right. Storytelling and just very inspirational. So if you guys haven't watched it, definitely recommend you do it. Big Fish, 2003. Ewan McGregor, aka Obi-Wan Kenobi. All right, guys. So that's it for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it's been a while too since I've done a podcast. It's just been crazy busy, but I've been getting back into the groove of watching more movies and doing some more reviews on them as well. Also getting into some TV series as well. So if you guys haven't seen it, I did do some reviews on some shows too. In fact, Obi-Wan Kenobi, actually, starring Ewan McGregor, of course. But otherwise, definitely looking forward to doing some more reviews, whether it be podcasts or videos. But otherwise, hope everybody's been doing well. And if you guys do want to check out some more of my work, again, you can find them on my social media network and also on my YouTube channel, which if you guys haven't done so, definitely click on that subscribe button, so that way you guys can get more updates on reviews, projects, or events that I'll be a part of. But until then, guys, thank you again for joining me in this podcast episode, and hope everybody's doing well. And this is, again, Jason Lore with Jason Lore Photography and Films, bringing you art, stories, and entertainment.